Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Call the meeting to order. We'll get started. Before we get to the pledge, I'd just like to mention we have board member George Nenaro with us today via the video. And also, I see quite a few people called in. If you could please mute your phones until we recognize you when you may want to speak. And if you're calling by phone and not video, you have to hit *6 to mute and unmute yourself. So if you could please do that. We heard a few people having conversations here. So yeah, we're hearing a couple people coming through. So could you please mute yourselves? And if you're calling by telephone, it's *6. Okay, if you could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, today is April 15th, 2021. This is the Town of Riverhead Planning Board meeting. We have a few items on the agenda today to discuss, some resolutions. First is Calverton Tree Farm, and Greg, this one's yours, right?
Sir. And I believe we have Tammy Cuna from PW Grosser. She is on to represent the applicant. I'm not sure if there's anybody else here in the waiting room for that application.
Okay, Tammy, can you hear us, Tammy?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you.
We got you too, thank you.
All right. So this was a application that was originally scheduled for the March 18th Planning Board meeting, but was pushed off due to applicants' scheduling issues. So we're here to have further discussion on, we've got two applications before the Planning Board. One is a reverse subdivision application, which is seeking to merge two existing parcels, specifically number 4070 and 3968 Middle Country Road. The other is a site plan application to perform grading and drainage improvements in order to construct an approximately 2,000-foot-long haul road, which would serve as access to a proposed agricultural site. The two parcels, as I stated, are located on the north side of Middle Country Road, approximately 3,000 feet west of Edwards Avenue within the Agricultural Protection Zone. One of those parcels is a 56.7-acre parcel and is presently the site of a New York State DEC construction and demolition debris recycling facility, which is operating under DEC registration number 52W77R. That site has also been the site of a previous sand mining operation. As such, there's practically no natural vegetation or grading existing on the site. The western parcel is a 96.6-acre parcel, which at the time of the report was previously enrolled in New York State Ag and Markets District Number 7. I'm unsure if it's currently still enrolled, but that parcel is presently improved with a single-family residence. It does not have a CO or an LPEU, as well as two farm buildings. The Planning Board, by resolution number 2020-12, dated February 6, 2020, classified it as a Type 1 action and initiated a lead agency request. Subsequently, back in December, the applicant did submit a more detailed project narrative to the Planning Department, just to kind of go over some of the major components of that and a brief analysis of it. So one of the concerns is that the merger of the lots, if approved by the Planning Board, could allow for the property owner to make an application to the DEC to permit additional mining and/or C&D processing facility on the newly combined parcel. One of the details in that project narrative stated that the mining on the site had ceased in about 2010, yet in aerial figures, which are shown on page 3 of the staff report, it does appear that there was additional mining or excavation that took place between 2010 and 2016. That mining did encroach onto that western parcel, which was the agricultural parcel. Page 3 of their expanded project narrative stated that because the easterly lot is burdened by hard pan soils, the easterly lot and the tree planting areas, that soil must be reconditioned with soils from the western lot. The site plan does not currently identify the location on the western lot from where those soils would come from, nor does it identify the amount of soils that would be required to establish the desired tree planting operation on that easterly lot. Another statement on page 3 of the narrative stated that town code doesn't allow material to be moved from one lot to another, so this is a reason that the merger is being requested. That statement is somewhat inaccurate, as there is a provision in Town Code Chapter 229, which does permit importation or exportation of soils pursuant to regulations within the code. So it would appear as though the merger of the lots is really being done in order to avoid the regulations of Chapter 229. One of the pages of the site plan indicates that there will be a cut of approximately 28,000 cubic yards of material left over from the roadway construction, but does not identify how that excess material will be addressed. This application does include the continuation of a pre-existing non-conforming use of a construction and demolition debris processing facility, which is described as a site that processes up to 600 cubic yards of material per day and a storage capacity of approximately 20,000 cubic yards. The applicant does have a pending Article 27 Title 7 Solid Waste Management Permit application pending with the New York State DEC. The details of that application have not yet been provided to this department. The pending solid waste management permit application must be obtained in order to determine whether there is a proposed expansion or intensification of that pre-existing C&D processing use. There is correspondence included in that project narrative from the DEC, which states that the applicant must provide a revised site plan and engineering report, which clearly shows how the operation of the solid waste management facility will be revised to accommodate the proposed Christmas tree farm and parking areas. To date, the site plan being reviewed by this planning department does not indicate how the facility will operate, nor does it show locations for material stockpiles or locations of any screening and processing equipment. It is noted that the C&D facility site, which was registered with the DEC on January 4th, 1999, expanded project narrative indicates that materials processed at the site will originate from Queens, Nassau, Suffolk, and Brooklyn. There has been some recent high-profile cases on Long Island of unsuitable and/or contaminated materials from New York City being brought to and disposed of on Long Island. In the report, I did include a link. There was a Riverhead Local article where it actually specifically called out this site, which was the location of some of that deleterious material. The DEC facility registration states that the site's operation schedule will be 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Yet it has been noted that operations are occurring at the site in early morning hours, trucks coming in and out of the site, which could potentially create noise disturbance for the neighboring properties. The full page 8 of the applicant's full environmental assessment form states that no pesticides are anticipated at this time. However, as they are looking to establish a agricultural, horticultural operation, it would be safe to assume that they would be applying pesticides in order to provide pest control from insects, fungi, nematodes, birds, etc. The use of any types of pesticides in the agricultural operation in a site which has been excavated and mined close to groundwater has the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater, as well as the continued operation of the C&D facility on the eastern parcel. And there are environmental concerns that rise of the level of potentially significant due to the potential future expansion of the C&D operation, which may occur due to the Part 361 permit and the combined total acreage of the site if the reverse subdivision of the parcels is approved. At this time, we did have a resolution to assume lead agency and issue a positive declaration pursuant to SECRA. Again, that was on the agenda from the planning board on March 18th, which was tabled. But at this time, we do have that resolution, and we recommend that the board untable it and vote on that resolution.
Greg, I had a couple quick questions.
Sir.
If I remember correctly, there was litigation. I'm pretty sure there was litigation with the town. I thought it was settled, maybe not.
I believe the litigation was settled. I know there was I do have some files. There was stipulations. I know there was some payments that were made, penalties that were levied. I believe, I don't want to speak out of turn. I would ask the town attorney that, but
All right.
I do believe it was.
I want to know if
I do
they're
believe it was
currently in
settled.
compliance with the DEC, and are they currently in compliance with the town? Do we know the answers to those?
In terms of DEC, I can't speak to that. Maybe we could ask the applicant that. In terms of the town, to my knowledge, they're not out of compliance. Right now, that's what they're seeking approvals for this application for, so to the best of my knowledge, they don't have any violations currently pending.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this, Greg. The difference in these photos between 2010 and 2016, where there appears to be encroaching onto the adjoining parcel, there's no approval for that, is there?
Correct.
Okay.
But is that what the litigation was about?
That's something I would seek clarification. I
think
don't,
that was resolved, but I'm not 100% sure.
if memory serves me right, I believe they were trying to construct the Hall Road, and I thought that may have been the reason for the litigation, but I can't comment on that affirmatively.
So what we're seeing in figure 4, are you saying the litigation was settled because of the whole road, or what we're seeing in figure 4 on the encroachment onto the other parcel?
Again, that I'm not sure. I'm not that familiar. It's been a while since I've looked at that litigation, but I tend to recall it being related to the Hall Road.
Did you go look at this site, Greg?
It's been a long time since I've been out there, but I have. Yeah.
And when you were there, the activity that was beyond that parcel, I mean, was it 20 feet or was it hundreds of feet?
I mean, the encroachment onto that neighboring parcel was hundreds of feet. It was not minor.
Okay. All right. The applicant, do they have anything or anyone else?
No.
Nothing else? Okay. George, anything to add or ask?
No, not at this time.
Okay. I'm good. All right. Thank you.
And we should find out what the litigation was about.
Jefferson, if you could, I mean, it's only 3:15. Could you go over to the town attorney's office and get clarification for us on what exactly was resolved in the litigation? Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is item 2, Purple Beach Major Subdivision.
All right. This one, I think. Yeah, it might be all right, so, yep, all right, we've got Mr. Israel here for the application. Now, we do have 3 major subdivisions on for this agenda. I just want to preface them by stating the current status of these applications. We're approaching the position where we would be reviewing sketch plans. We do have the Long Island Workforce Housing Act, which has yet to be adopted by the town board. So the draft language that we've adopted and is being circulated and kind of finished up by the town attorney's office, in theory, would allow these maps to go forward and be voted on and approved in terms of the yield and how we're arriving at our calculations, namely that 10% density bonus that's been discussed at prior meetings. So this is really, the next 3 applications are being just presented to the board to bring you up to speed. Once the town board votes on and adopts the draft legislation that we've adopted, we can then move forward with sketch plan. But, so this is just to give the board, keep them up to date as to the status of them.
Is there any timeline on that?
I got the last round of final revisions from the town attorney's office on Tuesday. I've just got to make a couple of tweaks to them. We do have a request in to the supervisor's office to get that on before a town board work session and move
They
forward.
gotta have a public hearing.
We'd have to have a public hearing, so I mean, from the time that, that could be a few weeks, that could be done between the public hearing and then get that codified. And at that point, once it's codified, the board could then vote on these maps. But I did speak to Dick Ehlers, and he did say it would be premature to vote on it because these maps are utilizing a density bonus, which right now appears to comply with the state legislation, just hasn't been implemented into the town code. So rather than, give you that recap on every,
Right.
this will be, mining for the next 3 applications. So Purple Beach Major Subdivision is a proposed major residential subdivision of an existing 5-acre parcel of land located on the west side of Doctor's Path. The property is located approximately 1,800 feet north of the intersection of Northville Turnpike and Doctor's Path. It has approximately 250 feet of frontage along Doctor's Path and is almost 890 feet deep, and is located within the RA 40 zoning use district. Now, the planning board has adopted 2 resolutions in connection with this application. Resolution number 2020-68, which approved an as-of-right development yield of 4 residential lots. And at the same meeting, they adopted resolution number 2020-069, which approved an increased density development yield map of 8 residential lots, which was predicated upon the procurement and redemption of 4 transfer of development rights for the increased density. The applicant has submitted a TDR sketch plan, which currently shows 9 residential lots, again, which is based on that calculation of the 8 lots from the TDR yield multiplied by a factor of 10% to give them an additional lot. One of those lots would be reserved for workforce housing. As a result of the TDRs and the clustering for the drainage and buffer area, the residential lots range in size on this map from 13,702 square feet through 17,019 square feet, with the average lot size being 15,147 square feet. The plans currently propose a approximately 720-foot long right-of-way, as well as buffer and drainage area along the northern and western property boundary. Staff notes that the proposed buffer recharge area along the northern property is proposed in one of the higher elevation points in the property. In the town's consulting engineer's comments in his previous memo dated June 18th of 2020, he did recommend that an alternative sketch plan be designed to provide and address the drainage issue to more closely follow the existing natural grade of the property. So as I stated, based on the proposed Long Island Workforce Housing Act, the yield does appear to be accurate. So then there's no objection taken to the addition of the 9th lot for workforce housing. However, consistent with the town's consulting engineer, the applicant should provide an alternative sketch plan, which I've spoken with Vinnie Gaudiello. He'd like to see a map which sort of flips the proposed subdivision along its east-west axis, which the drainage and recharge area would be along that southern property boundary as opposed to the northern. He seemed to follow the existing natural grade of the property a little more closely. And that would also allow the proposed subdivision to locate that buffer and recharge area, which would serve as a buffer between there's 8 single-family residences which are located to the south, as opposed to buffering it from the 4 residential lots to the north. It would just allow for that buffer to buffer more houses as opposed to less houses. So in terms of the yield and the number of lots, we're okay. I would recommend prior to approval, the applicant provide an alternative sketch. We get Vinnie's comments on that. Other than that, if the board has any other recommendations, I mean, really, based on the size of the property, there's not too many different alternatives that you're going to be able to configure on this. It is pretty kind of straightforward in terms of the orientation of the parcel.
The drainage calculations, Vinnie was okay with them? I know it came across late this afternoon, right?
Yeah, he was okay. I mean, he was conceptually okay with it in terms of the drainage numbers. I believe he did recommend a, let me see. One of the comments I think he made was, as part of the sketch plan, a schematic drainage design has been provided that involves standard catch basins. In evaluating the drainage design, we suggested in preparing the preliminary subdivision road and drainage plans, a combination of a positive drainage system with leaching basins be considered. Right now, the sketch plan that we have before us currently shows a number of leaching pools on that northern property, as well as some piping that extend to a leaching field on the western portion of the property. So he was recommending more of a positive recharge basin as opposed to a number of leaching pools. And again, that would be considered, the board could select their preferred design based off of, an alternative sketch plan being provided.
Craig, on the map, it shows that adjacent to the southern portion, it shows the now formerly Town of Riverhead Park. Do we know whether that's developed at all?
Yes, that is a park.
An active park?
Yes, sir.
Greg, I know we're only at the sketch plan phase here, but at what point do we reach out to the other departments for comments?
I mean, it would really be at preliminary plat, because that's, you know, that's when you're actually talking about the design of it. I mean, we did speak to the highway superintendent for neighboring properties where we were dealing with more, you know, drainage issues, trying to deal with actually showing recharge areas. But, you know, in terms of reaching out to the water district, that wouldn't happen until there's a preliminary plat where they actually provide a map and plan, show actual, you know, details of the proposed water supply systems. I mean, I could distribute these to the highway superintendent, see if he has any concerns. Again, I mean, it'll probably be a few weeks before we'd approve a sketch plan, so I would be confident that we can get comments back in that time.
Yeah, I'm just a little concerned with, you know, these starting to roll in, these major subdivisions, and we know the town's water district is still at a big deficit. I don't think it's good planning for us to cause the applicant to keep moving forward where the water district may not be able to supply these. The infrastructure of the town water district has been a problem for a number of years, and to sit here and keep approving these is just bad planning on our part. So we're gonna need some strong comments from the water district specifically on these subdivisions. Can they handle it? You know, what are they gonna require as far as conservation? But until we get that, I'm gonna be hard pressed to keep, you know, rubber stamping these things.
I mean, I have spoken with the water district superintendent. His main concern would be the landscaping irrigation. He's not so concerned with the 300 gallons per day for, you know, a single-family residence. And there was recent legislation by the town, like a water conservation, requiring a certain amount to be xeriscaped, require smart irrigation controllers, which would be added as covenants, but I will reach out to him and we'll get some feedback.
Right, because we could make those comments requirements for any preliminary approval.
Yes.
But they, you know, again, we have to get there. I mean, we talk about it every time, and we need these strong comments and restrictions, whatever you want to call them, or conservation measures, but it's a concern. All right.
Okay, we just mentioned before about sharing this map with the other departments. If we're going to see another map showing the flipping, should we wait to get that before we send it to the other departments?
I mean, the flipping of the map I don't think would affect water district comments. I mean, I could send this map out to highway. As soon as I get a revised map, I could send that out as well and reach out to Geo for comments on
I
that.
can understand the water district, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the applicant, Mr. Israel, does he have anything to add or ask?
Sure, if I can. You know, there was a lot of thought put into where we placed the road originally. We thought, for two reasons, all the houses, we thought it was important that their backyard face south. A lot of people are using solar today and quiet enjoyment. Most people prefer the sun in the back of their house versus if we put the road to the south side, everybody's backyard would be in the north of their house, so they wouldn't get the sunshine and the play areas and the good grasses and things like that. The other thing that we thought of when we did it, as you look now, the house on Lot 8 has some separation from the park. If I flip the road, which would now make Lot 9 be next to the park, you'd have less of a buffer for that house to that park. The other thing that we just came up with was that the road, I'm going to say would be more level on the north side, but we thought that the backyards of the 6 or 7 houses would be a better buffer than having the road and it on those neighbors. So we actually thought we were protecting the neighbors to the south more by putting backyards there where people, you know, would basically keep their structures more towards the northern road. But, you know, that was our concept of it, was that it would be better to have, again, a road to the north and the houses to the south, and it worked out nice in the cul-de-sac that house now on Lot 8 has a good buffer from the park, and that the drainage easement that we created from the last comments of Vinnie, which you see on the northern side and heading to the westerly side, also created that buffer from adjacent neighbors, that are there. We thought that the road on the north side would be less objectionable to the 4 to 5 lots that are adjacent to it. And the buffer was really done to create not only a place for drainage, but really so that you didn't have 2 front yards on anybody's house. So the buffer was designed so that whether you're to the north or the south, you didn't have a road in your front and backyard. So Howie came up with the idea of creating this, because we had the width to deal with. I had said to him, and we talked about it, why don't we make a buffer and move the edge of the road away from any residential, so that no one is ever coming up with the problem of that they have 2 front yards being their backyard. And that's how that buffer started to happen and be created. And we figured that if it's part of the road, we can dedicate it to the town and the like. So that's how this plan, this plan has been in front of a lot of people for a long time at this point. But that was our thoughts about it, was we felt that everybody got their quiet enjoyment better from this plan versus, flipping the road. It could go either way, but I don't think the drainage of the road, it's gonna, all the water from the road is gonna get contained and the like. I thought this was designed pretty much that whatever road water was coming off, they were hitting the catch basins that you see in that easement area, and very little of it was heading to the westerly boundary. We moved the drainage basin in the cul-de-sac upon Vinnie's request. And we created the drainage further down on that westerly side. Originally, it was to the east of the cul-de-sac where that water would go.
Just make a comment on what you have listed as parcel A, which is to be dedicated to the town of Riverhead. In the past, we've had subdivisions with similar requests, and the town board has always turned them down. I think you really have to give that consideration.
Well, that is a question that came up about the positive drainage. And did you say the highway didn't comment on this yet, right?
No.
So we need input from the highway to see if they'd be open to maintaining a layout like this as opposed to a recharge basement with positive drainage.
That would be interesting.
All right, so based on Mr. Israel's comments, which I will acknowledge, there, it seems like they've thought this out quite a bit. There was some diligence done to it. Would the board still like to see another alternative, or would they be comfortable moving forward on this pending highway comments?
Yeah, I'm okay with the layout,
All right.
but I'd like to hear the highway and especially the water too.
All right.
Well, the only thing I would say is that we did have a request from our engineer to see another plan.
I go over that.
What to see it, another plan, Dick?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the code call for? Doesn't it call for,
I believe the code calls for 3 sketch plans. Again, that's a universal code, for requiring all subdivisions. Again, I don't really see, aside from flipping the orientation of it, this is not an application where we're going to be redesigning the layout of the road or providing
Right.
alternative roadway systems. So, if the board would like to see a sketch just for,
well, I understand what Vinnie's saying as far as the drainage and positive drainage and maybe a recharge basin, but let's see what the highway super says before we make him do that.
all right.
Okay, and then if the highway super doesn't like this because he doesn't like maintaining that type of system, then we'll have to revisit it. And it sounds like we have a little time because the town hasn't moved forward with those amendments yet,
Correct.
okay?
All right, so it sounds like we'll hold off on requiring the alternative sketch plan. I'll get these plans out to Highway and get comments back before we hear from the town on the workforce.
Can I make one additional comment?
Sure.
Yes.
So understand that if we do a positive drainage to a sump, that sump is gonna be next to that park, which I would be very adverse to just from liability reasons and everything else. If that park is used for children and everything else, and we're about to dig a hole for the water to go, I don't think it's a great idea, but I'll show it anyway.
I don't disagree.
There is one already adjacent to the plant, to that park, if you look at the drawing, from another subdivision. There's now a formerly Town Riverhead recharge basin.
Yeah. It doesn't abut to this subdivision, but it
No,
abuts
it
to the
abuts to the
park.
park.
Yeah. Let's see what Highway Super says, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item. Bob is gonna answer a question for us? Okay, so we'll back up a minute to answer our question on Calverton Tree Farm before we go to the next one. We'll ask Bob to come up, Town Attorney. We just had a couple questions, Bob, on what exactly was settled with Calverton Tree Farm as far as the litigation, and what it exactly pertained to.
Well, there was no settlement. They brought the Article 78, challenging the delay with respect to their application, and that Article 78 was denied by the court. So there was a decision made by the court, and
Okay.
I believe I spoke to this board about it, but I could be mistaken. And so the case, they lost.
There was a fine, I'm talking about before that. Wasn't there some kind of settlement, there was a fine paid or something?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was
What
with
was
respect
the
to.
fine for? What did they do that they got a fine for?
That they undertook excavation, and I believe it was, I wish I knew that was the question being posed. They had put in a haul road and had excavated materials, as well as had taken some additional materials, again, our allegations, from the former mined area. The parties stipulated and agreed that upon the payment of a fee, the $2 per cubic yard fee, as well as a fine, that the site plan and their applications for and on merger would be considered by the town. They paid that fine. I think it was in excess of $200,000 as part of a court stipulation. That was handled by the office of Sinreich, Kozikoff, and Messina. That's I think Tim Hill from that firm handled the matter.
So are they basically in compliance to the best of our knowledge right now, or we don't know?
As far as the stipulation,
Yeah.
to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, yes, they paid the fees.
Right, but that got it to the planning board for us to consider.
Correct.
This lot merger and, you know, the
Right,
encroachment onto the other parcel.
correct.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and this board is free to, make secret determinations as you see fit, but there's nothing from that stipulated settlement which would prevent you from moving forward, if that's the question.
That was the question.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Glad we got around to it.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
All right, so item 3, Norfolk Developers LLC. Who do we have for this one?
Gary Sherman's here. I see Charles is here, and Doug's here, and Tom as well.
All right, so this is another major subdivision. Again, the same deal with the town board with the Long Island Workforce Housing Act will pertain to this application. But the planning board did approve a 11-lot as-of-right yield map of this subject property. That was done on February 8th, 2021. Now the applicant has submitted 3 sketch plans, which now show 13 lots, again, based on that 10% factor to create 2 additional lots. Those 2 lots would be reserved as workforce housing purposes. They've submitted 3 sketch plans entitled Sketch Plan G, Sketch Plan H, and Sketch Plan I. Sketch Plan G and Sketch Plan H are essentially identical, except that in Sketch Plan G, they are proposing to manage the stormwater within the town, in the proposed right-of-way. And Sketch Plan H proposes to manage the stormwater through a 15-foot wide easement on private property along one of the northern parcels. And it looks like they would propose to link that system into the existing recharge basin, which is located to the north of what is identified as lot number 5 on that map. Sketch Plan I does actually show a positive recharge basin. It shows a recharge basin of approximately 53,000 square feet. It does show 13 lots, which range in size from 20,741 square feet through 60,329 square feet. Based on Vinnie's comments, and I had spoken with Vinnie prior to him issuing these comments, of the sketch plans submitted, Sketch I would be the preferred design, as it does propose a positive recharge area. However, when you look at the map, there are some kind of anomalies. I mean, if you look at lot number 6, for example, and lot number 2, there are some, lot number 6 is proposed at 20,741 square feet. And then you've got lot number 12, which is 60,329 square feet. In terms of the layout and the design of the subdivision, as well as considering the Workforce Housing Act, which states that any of the approved density bonuses should be similar in context and size to the other neighboring lots, I would recommend, the lots on this subdivisions could be equalized a little more to not have such disparity. For example, just lot number 5, 35,000 square feet, lot number 6, 20,000 square feet, lot number 7, 33,000 square feet. So it seems like there could be some balancing to get these lots a little more evenly sized. But of the preferred sketch plans, Sketch Plan I, in theory, with some tweaking, would be the preferred design, at least based on Vinnie Gaudiello's comments.
What's the average time?
The average for, I don't have that calculation. Doug, or do either one of, do any of the representatives of the applicant happen to know the average lot size for Sketch Plan I?
Hello, it's Doug Adams. No, we didn't do a calculation, but it looks like the average lot size is somewhere in the mid-30s.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Greg, on the other 2 sketch plans, how is the drainage proposed on those?
So in Sketch Plan G, the plan does not show any sort of recharge area, and it just shows some drainage rings within the right-of-way, which, through the
I see,
pendency
yeah.
of this application, we had heard from the town's consulting engineer, the highway department, that they do not want the stormwater managed within the right-of-way. So Sketch Plan G shows drainage rings in the right-of-way. Sketch Plan H shows piping systems, catch basins within the right-of-way, being piped through a 15-foot wide easement through lot number 5, and that's piped through to the existing recharge basin to the north. If this was even to be considered, that 15-foot drainage easement should be a town right-of-way. That should not be on an easement on private property. If there's drainage systems, that would not be.
Probably the department would have to check, decide whether they want to take that drainage as well.
Yeah,
right?
you wouldn't, the board wouldn't really, I wouldn't even recommend entertaining a system like this where you're proposing a town drainage system through a private property through an easement.
Do that.
Do we
Can I
know
make a couple comments, guys?
do we know if the town recharge basin can handle the stormwater for this?
There's been no I don't see any calculations on the plans or any sort of analysis of that recharge basin, so.
I can
This
comment
point, I
on that if you like.
Okay, go ahead, Doug.
I did an extensive analysis on that, actually. It just, on the sketch, it's not appropriate to kind of show all that junk right now, but the recharge basin, one side of the recharge basin would be expanded by just only about 10 feet to maintain about a 10 to 15% freeboard above, what that recharge basin needs, which is how it's designed now and how we always design it, about 10% bigger than they need to be. We could do nothing to that recharge basin and have enough volume, but there wouldn't be any sort of, buffer for that. So we would expand it, the north side of it, the northeast side of it would be expanded about 10 feet. It's about 60 feet from the property line now to the fence. We just move that whole fence on that line over and move the slope over 10 feet. It gains about, the numbers in front of me, maybe 20,000 cubic feet or something like that. We could even lower the bottom, half of the bottom, which is typical in a recharge basin as well. So it's a pretty easy engineering task to do that.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out, the other thing was, in Vinnie's comments today that I read, I didn't notice him objecting to any of the drainage design. He just pointed out that Geo does have an objection or has a concern. So it wasn't Vinnie that has any problems. In fact, he said on the first plan, which is G, I guess, he even said that it seems to be, like it could be designed to conform to the standards. So, but he just noted that Geo has indicated that he's in favor of not using stone wool. So it's just George at this point, but wanted to make that clear. I just read the comments 10 minutes ago, so I'm sorry. I just got them.
So, Greg, based on what you just said a couple minutes ago, I mean, it's kind of the same thing if they build a new one to the south and have an easement going to that. Really at that point, it's a matter of the highway super wanting to maintain an additional recharge basin or just, tying into an existing one and not having as much maintenance. So I guess it would be his preference. It's either he has an additional one to maintain or the calculations, are agreed upon and they can tie into that other one. But getting to it is really no different in my mind than what you're proposing on I.
Yeah, and on G, guys, just so you know, the easement that we show across lot, I think it's lot 5, if I'm not mistaken, that could be a dedicated right-of-way. There is already access to that recharge basin from Rabbit Run, but the pipe would go through that property. So typically for a drainage pipe, we typically show an easement. We can easily just make that part of the road, and, dedicated as part of the road. It's not a big deal. It's easy. But you're right, Stan, that, we're basically doing the same thing, except we're building an entire recharge basin. And it's that access to it and everything else and all the piping, when we could really just very gingerly or modestly modify an existing recharge basin, which is actually very huge. It's a very big recharge, one of the biggest recharge basins probably in Riverhead.
All right, so are we have to make a decision today or?
No, again, so this is what, again, all these subdivisions need the town board to act on the Long Island Workforce Housing Act because they are utilizing the density bonus that would be proposed by that act.
Okay,
He would check with the highway superintendent to see
Yeah.
which,
maybe we could do a three-way call or something, Greg,
All right.
with the highway super.
because regardless of which plan, there's still a lot of adjusting that could be done to some of these lot sizes, especially in this H, which has got 275,000 square foot lots.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, to me on, on sketch plan H, I mean, to me it seems to be apparent which two lots would be the Long Island Workforce Housing Act. I mean, you've got lots of roughly 21,000 square feet and 22 and a half. And then, like you said, you've got lots that are almost an acre and a half.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a pretty big disparity. I would think the board would like to see a little more even, sizes on these
Yeah.
lots.
I think on the bigger lots, guys, too, just keep in mind that sometimes a flag lot, for example, to offset the less desirability of, sometimes I kind of like a flag lot myself, but
Long
some,
flag.
some folks don't, is to give them a little more room to, to work with, to move their house somewhere in that bulk of the area of the property, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's a, if I could speak for a moment about this, because we do want to, we do want to move forward and try to get the board's view about which is the preferred, so we can have an idea about, which way we're going here. The reason for those big lots to the south, is, I'm aware of the large, application that's going to be coming to the planning board for about 100 units that would be bordering this property. And my intent here was to buffer that as best I could, not knowing, how they're gonna, buffer theirs, if at all, given, so I'm aware of the church's application that's in the works right now, because I'm friendly with the developer, so I know a lot about it. And that's the reason for that, to create that buffer, down there.
You're talking about the church, the Baptist church property?
Yes, yes. Yes.
That church is not on that property?
I'm sorry?
The church is not on that property, it's vacant?
The church is on it, but it contains about 13 acres of land. And I don't know where they're going to relocate the church to on that property. But that was, there was a lot of thought. I've been working on this for a long time to find the best layouts here. And I'm really hoping, because time is of the essence, that we can get a determination, and I've basically done everything that the planning board and staff have asked for. And I'm happy to it seems like that the most logical place to recharge is where sketch, sketch I, and that, that was Greg's request that we build it on site. And I would, if you're suggesting that to do a 15-foot on for sketch, for tying into the recharge, the town's recharge basin to the north, if we were to have to pave, would that be a 15-foot wide paved access road or drive?
I don't think you would pave that, guys, because that's just
No.
for, the
Just
ramp
have
is
to
in a
be-
different location.
Just have to be accessible. But
Yeah.
do we have an application, Greg, for that
No.
property?
No.
So,
Whether or not, I believe there is something in the code, I believe it's called the Community Benefit District, and that was adopted back in 2003. Again, we have no application pending before us. Any plans that any developer may be working on, we have no application before us, no knowledge of anything, so.
Right, Jeff is, Jefferson's aware of it, of that application, so, I'm pretty confident something's gonna happen over there, and that was and aside from that, and also to minimize the road work and the disturbance of trees and so forth, so we can keep the site, as open as we possibly can. That's really the reason for that. It's the best site, planning from an environmental standpoint that we can really come up with.
okay. So,
But again, I'm hoping to have a decision really whether you prefer us to tap into the recharge area and expand the town's basin, or you prefer that we build our own recharge area. I'm happy to do either one. I just would like to have a direction.
Sure.
As we
So,
talk about this. Yeah.
based on what you shared with us today, I think I'd really like to have a conversation with the highway super, and also, and I'd like to be part of it, and also clarification from Jefferson on what he may or may not know about, because, if we're gonna put the recharge area at the south, as you said on I, and that parcel's gonna be developed, it might be able to be used for that one too. So, we gotta do our job as planners, so how about we get these questions answered and we get you a decision on these by our next meeting?
It's good.
Yes.
2 weeks.
Who's that? Was that you, George? No.
No,
So
I said that would be fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
I didn't know who that was. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Greg?
All right.
My comments from the last application too, with the water district and availability of water and conservation, as well as if Parks needs property, or if the water district needs property to develop a well site, just put it on the table, because these things, I don't know how you get 100 lots out of 13 acres, but it's concerning, all these lots coming at us, and we're kind of, not planning forward.
Yeah, as far as the Parks and Rec, we have been referring these plans to the Parks Department. They've typically been looking for the $3,000 per lot fee as opposed to an on-site. The general consensus from the Parks Department is that, you know, it's not really beneficial to him to put a little like half acre, they call it a pocket park. You know, rather than see a bunch of these tiny little pocket parks pop up that may only serve, you know, 10 or 12 residences, is just more maintenance, more work for him to maintain.
Right, but on the other hand, if you're adding 12 houses here and another 10 on the other one, you know, it's a lot more, much bigger community, and if it borders a park already, maybe we could expand on that park. And I don't know necessarily know that that's, you know, Parks and Rec's decision. Maybe the town board would want to see something like that. I'm just, you know, now's the time to talk about these things.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
Could I just ask before we close, you know, in the meantime, would you like us to, or Doug, to do a little bit more, more engineering on, you know, to put the right-of-way, you know, on the map, and, or you just want us to hold?
I would hold right now. I mean, because we can't do anything until the town makes the amendment, right?
Correct. I mean, and that really has to do with the number of lots and the yield. In terms of the configuration of the lots, that's really in the jurisdiction of the planning board. So, I mean, if there is a generally preferred design, obviously, we're going to have a call. We'll get you set up with the highway superintendent so we can discuss that, and then really give them feedback at the next meeting. And then, at least conceptually, you can say whether it's Plan H, Plan I, what the board would like to see.
Right, and we get some direction from Jefferson too on that south parcel. Find out what that is coming
Yeah,
along.
because that's news to me, so.
Okay.
All right, is it fair to say then that our application will be on the next planning board agenda then, to just to hear the conclusion?
Yeah, we'll pick a sketch plan at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Is that sound?
Great.
Yeah, okay
Great.
with the board?
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that, you know, the town board will not have codified the Workforce
Right.
Housing Act, so we can give him direction, but this is not to
Right.
be construed as he will be getting a sketch plan approval at the next meeting.
Direction.
Yeah, I understand. I'm not so worried about the workforce housing. I think that's fairly well resolved. It's just getting the lots nailed down, so I know, because I do need to, like every other developers, get into the county with our site maps
Right.
next month.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank-
Okay, next discussion item, Farmview Estates. Another major subdivision.
All right, Steve Lasquadro, you should be, if you talk, you should be unmuted.
Okay, thank you.
He's here representing the applicant. So this is another major subdivision known as Farmview Estates. It was previously known as Old Orchard at Riverhead. The name of the application was changed at the request of the planning board to avoid confusion with another subdivision. This is a subdivision proposing to subdivide an existing 26.1 acre parcel of land, which is located on the north side of Middle Road, approximately 670 feet east of the intersection of Middle Road and Harrison Avenue. And the subject property is located within the Residence B40 zoning district. The planning board, by resolution number 2019-115, approved a 22-lot yield map for the subject property. And that resolution included a condition that the submission of a sketch plan, they must identify how they're going to comply with the Workforce Housing Act. The planning board last touched on this application at its October 1st, 2020 meeting. At that meeting, the applicant did prepare 3 different sketch plans. The board reviewed them and gave them, it was identified that sketch plan A was the preferred design. Based on subsequent consulting engineer comments, they did do some modifications to that sketch plan, namely at the northerly end of each drainage right-of-way on the parcel. They widened those catchment areas, and they did relocate the area of the drainage basin as well as lot numbers 20 and 24. Right now, this current sketch plan before you, which was based on the board's preferred design, identifies a recharge basin of approximately 69,000 square feet, as well as 2 open space areas, one on the west side of the road being approximately 3.7 acres, and one on the east side of the road being approximately 2.68 acres. On this sketch plan, the proposed residential lots range in size from 22,240 square feet through 41,505 square feet, the average lot size being 25,591 square feet. Town's consulting engineer did review these. He did say that sketch plan approval may be considered with the understanding that the roadway drainage design and grading requirements for some of the lots would need to be evaluated as part of the preliminary subdivision process. I do note that there are some minor errors on the site data tables which are located on the plan. I believe those are just holdovers from the previous sketch. Those are minor calculation errors that can just be quickly revised by the applicant's design professional. But in closing on this one, conceptually, we have a sketch plan which does identify a total of 25 lots. That's based upon the 22 lot as of right yield, the 10% density factor to get an additional 3 lots. So on this 25 lot sketch plan, 3 of those lots would be reserved as workforce housing.
Do they have to TDR those extra lots?
No, so the density bonus as afforded by the Workforce Housing Act, there is no TDRs, there is no importation. That's just a density bonus that's afforded by the Workforce Housing Act. So this one, I would assume the same comments from Highway, same comments from the Water District, but we have here a sketch plan which Vinnie Gaudiello has recommended approval of. Does appear to comply with the draft legislation that we've got for the Workforce Housing Act. So this one, once the town board acts on the Workforce Housing Act, we can move forward with a sketch plan approval on this and allow them to go forward with preliminary plat.
What's the status of the workforce within town now?
So I did just, it's been circulating between the Community Development Agency and the Town Attorney's Office. I had put together a draft, sent it out. I've got some minor tweaks that I just received back from the Town Attorney's Office on Tuesday that I kind of have to massage into the code and incorporate that stuff. Once that's set, we'll hopefully meet with the town board. If they're in agreement with the proposed amendment, we'd schedule a public hearing on that and then move forward.
Yeah. Hey, Greg,
Yes, sir.
those proposed 10-foot wide drainage right-of-way, they're designed to capture the flow from the north runoff?
Yes, so the catchment areas, yeah, because if you look on the tributary area map, it is a tributary area of almost 1.3 million square feet. So those 3 10-foot wide drainage right-of-ways would capture that. I do note that the width of the right-of-way is 10 feet, but they do open up on the northern portions of those lots on the drainage easements between 30 and 40 feet for the actual
To capture it.
for the actual installation of the catchment
That's kind of
structures.
what I was asking, how are they going to catch that? So it'd be like a swale or something that's a mouth,
Correct,
so to
and it's
speak.
just going to
Okay.
funnel everything into
Okay.
there through that 10-foot easement and then in through the system.
All right, so my same comments for water, you know, they apply to all 3 of these applications as far as conservation goes and the ability of the water district to service them, as well as any comments from Parks and Recreation.
Chairman, I wonder if at some point we couldn't get the water superintendent to come to a meeting and give us a better feeling of what's coming and also what he can handle with what he has.
We can invite him to an afternoon meeting, maybe in May. Okay,
We can do that.
great.
Thank you.
Anything else from the applicant on this?
No, sir, I agree with everything and appreciate everything that Mr. Bergman has set forth, and that's our understanding that this is ready to continue to move forward, subject to the town board's action.
Okay.
I don't know, Jeff just came back, I don't know if we want to wait for that other discussion at the end of the meeting, or if you'd like to touch on it.
Maybe we'll ask him at the end, we'll keep moving. Okay, next item on the agenda is 54 West Main Street.
This is a continued discussion of a site plan application seeking approval to perform facade renovations to an existing two-story commercial building located at 54 West Main Street, including the installation of a new ground floor facade in the front of the building along West Main Street, the installation of new second floor egress windows along West Main Street, and the installation of new rear second floor windows with interior alterations also proposed, including the renovation of the existing ground floor restaurant space, the conversion of existing second floor office and storage space into 2 one-bedroom apartments, and the installation of new interior fire sprinklers. This application was last reviewed by the planning board at the March 4th, 2021 meeting. At that meeting, planning board resolution number 2021-020, that resolution classified the site plan application as a type 1 action pursuant to SECRA and authorized the circulation of a request for lead agency status to involved agencies. The 30-day coordination period beginning on March 5th is ended with no objections to the planning board assuming lead agency status having been received from involved agencies. The comments that we did receive during that period were from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. Again, they took no concerns with the planning board acting as lead agency. They provided a number of comments about the proposed facade alterations. I forwarded these comments to Richard Wines, chairman of the Landmarks Preservation Committee, as well as the applicant. At the previous meeting, prior to the previous meeting, the application, including the facade renovations, had been both reviewed and approved by the town's Architectural Review Board and the Landmarks Preservation Commission. As the comments received from, the comments received from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation are advisory, as the project doesn't involve state or federal permitting, funding, or licensing. As a required 30-day SECRA coordination period has ended without objection to the planning board's request to assume lead agency status, staff recommends that the planning board assume lead agency status and issue a negative declaration, and staff also recommends the approval of the application. We do have Ike Israel on the Zoom call for this application.
All right, so we got the comments from Landmarks Preservation. I do appreciate the history that Mr. Wines gave us. We often lose sight of the history downtown, so I personally appreciate that. But any other comments or questions from the board?
For it.
No.
Mr. Israel, have anything?
I just want to add that I was lucky enough that I had gotten insight from the Landmarks Board before I submitted, so I was able to give them exactly what they were looking for.
Great. Okay,
Do we have to do a SECRA resolution on this?
The administrative approval resolution that I prepared includes the SECRA.
Include SECRA?
Oh, I'm sorry, the resolution I prepared for this meeting assumes lead agency status and issues a negative declaration. SECRA was type 1, so the previous meeting resolution was prepared to circulate that request for lead agency status.
so 30 days we're past.
Correct.
Yeah, we're fine. Okay. Okay, next application, SL Gateway LLC.
Again, this is a continued discussion of a site plan application seeking approval to construct a 1,945 square foot addition to an existing retail store. This is at 1866 Old Country Road. The proposed addition would expand the retail space currently occupied by Riverhead Liquor Mart, located within the Gateway Plaza Shopping Center. The application proposes the use of previously acquired TDRs from an approved future expansion of the Peconic Bay Medical Center remote site hospital on site, which remains unconstructed. Under the proposal, the Peconic Bay Medical Center would waive the right to construct this previously approved expansion and the TDRs associated with the waived expansion would then be utilized to construct the newly proposed expansion to Riverhead Liquor Mart. The application was last reviewed with the planning board at the February 4th, 2021 meeting. The proposed site plan application is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Coordinated review is optional and not recommended. Staff recommends that the planning board assume lead agency status without coordinated review and issue a negative declaration. Planning board held and closed a public hearing on the site plan application on March 4th, 2021. The most recent site plan revision was revised to propose the use of pervious pavers in order to reduce the impervious surface coverage of the proposal to an amount compliant with the previously approved Peconic Bay Medical Center urgent care expansion. Pervious pavers are considered an alternative pervious paving technique, and as such require approval by the town engineer and town consulting engineer per the town code. Approvals for the use of the pervious pavers were received from both the engineering department and the town's consulting engineer. The plans were also revised to propose LED canopy lighting instead of the previously proposed metal halide lighting, which would not have been compliant with the town code. Staff recommends that the planning board assume lead agency status without coordinated review and issue a negative declaration. And preliminary approval of the site plan application is also recommended. We have Chuck Miller, engineer in the project, on the Zoom call.
Yes.
Brian, just one question.
Sure.
On your report, you indicated that they would need relief from the ZBA.
It was the case that they would have needed relief from the ZBA with their initial proposal, as their impervious surface coverage was exceeding what was previously approved. So the newly proposed pervious pavers will bring that impervious surface coverage down to an amount that's compliant.
They don't
So
need it.
they'll no
Good.
longer need relief from the ZBA.
Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
George, no? Applicant have any comments? Was that Mr. Miller?
No, I don't.
All right. We'll bring it up under resolutions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the public hearings. The first one listed on the agenda for Sunken Ponds is being adjourned to May 20th, 2021. The next one, we will reopen and continue the Calverton Solar Energy Center Nextera public hearing. So we'll call that public hearing as reopened. I mean, this has been around a while. I don't know how many people are actually on that may want to comment, but so how could we identify? I mean, anyone who wants to speak, if you could unmute yourself and we will hear your comments on the Nextera public hearing for the solar project. Angela DeVito?
Yeah, I'm actually, thank you, Mr. Carey. I'm not sure if my comment should come at this time or when you address the resolution on this project here. I'm not commenting on any of their site plans or anything like that, but more of the process that has been involved with this all along. So if I could do it now, I'll do it now. That's fine with me.
I think now would be appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, well, good afternoon, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak with the board. And at this particular point, I know that this project has become sort of a hot potato, and I'm here today to ask you, as our planning board, to put aside further consideration of the actual application that's in front of you, as well as your resolution, until our town board resolves some of the what appear to be differences of opinions and problems with their process. I would ask that it gets put aside until the town board, as the lead agency, rescinds its two resolutions, the one of February 2020 approving the neg deck, and the 2nd of December 2020, which amended the neg deck and approving the special permit. The reason for this is that there appears to have been information that was not available to the town board members who made these decisions back in February and December of 2020. They acted on information when that information they had was incomplete. A review of the actions on this application in September, starting way back. It's, as you said, it's been around for a long time, Mr. Carey, since 2018. They submit an application in September with supporting documentations. In January of 2019, there's some 45 pages of engineering drawings that are submitted.
I'm hearing it.
But there is nothing about requisite elevation drawings are included, and there was no depiction at this time in January of 2019 of the high, large 45-foot structures that are going to be put on this site. It isn't until February of 2021 that the public learns of these large 45-foot, as well as the town board, structures on this land, even though the drawings submitted in 2021 and dated August 2018 with modifications in November of 2019. These drawings were not only released almost 30 months later, but after the town board made their secret determination and took their action on the special permit application. I believe that these drawings constitute new information and requires complete evaluation to determine the potential for significant negative visual impacts. I understand the applicant has said that the delay in providing this information was due to COVID-19, but actually we didn't even know about COVID-19 until January, February 2020. There is no excuse to explain away the delay in the town and the public receiving this information. The easement agreements between Nextera, S-Power, and Westbury Properties also surfaced in 2021. These agreements established the codependency between Nextera and S-Power, and the cumulative impact of these agreements was never analyzed by the town board as it made its secret and special permit determinations. The lack of timely disclosure surely undermines and invalidates the board's actions of 2020. The secret review process requires full and complete disclosure of the entire process, soup to nuts. And now the town is asking you to work off of a flawed secret process, a flawed secret record, one that they have tried to reaffirm in a letter to you, thinking that it makes it all okay. And I'll quote from the March 22, 2021 town board meeting where Supervisor Yvette Aguiar said, in quote, "It is before the planning board, and I'm going to have confidence in the planning board to decide what they do. This is actually their responsibility, their job to carry it out, and their job to complete a full review, and we have to see what they decide before I move forward, okay." And that's in response to Councilman Tim Hubbard's saying that he'd like to relook at this because of the new information. And I understand that a letter was sent to you and signed by 3 members of our town board, reaffirming their decisions of 2020. But if you look at the record, the supervisor voted against the neg deck, okay, and yes on the special permit. Ken Rothwell, who signed this letter, was not even on the town board at the time either of these decisions were made. Frank Bayrott is the lone signatory on the letter reaffirming their 2020 decisions to you to vote yes on both. Sending you this project and asking you to go ahead, to me, is just bad planning, asking you to participate in bad planning. And it makes it, to me, it's tremendously unfair to you as a town body who has so diligently addressed all of the applications that have come before you over these many years. So I would ask you again today to put this resolution aside and put aside this project until the town board rescinds its 2020 resolutions and considers new resolutions that include all the requisite information. And I thank you very much for this opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vito. The next speaker we have is Ed Graham.
Oh, God.
I'm just going to ask everyone.
I'm just gonna wait, how you doing, guys?
Good. If you're not you.
I'm just gonna
Mr.
wait a
Mr.
few
Graham,
seconds.
But everyone else, if you
and
could please
know
mute your
there's
phones
a
because
few
you're
other
bleeding
people.
through. Go ahead, Mr. Graham.
How you doing? You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna wait for a few other people to speak before I go. I know there's a bunch of people waiting, so I'm just still organizing a little bit. So if you could just pass on me until a few more people go.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I'll come back to you, but again,
Thank you.
we have a hard time hearing you. Your connection doesn't seem to be too good, but we will come back to you.
All right, thank you.
Kathy McGraw.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy McGraw. I'm from Riverhead. My motivation for speaking today is primarily an ethical one. As I wrote in an email to you, Mr. Carey, earlier this week, I am deeply troubled by the way the business of this town is being conducted by the town board. I should preface my remarks by saying that as a 35-year federal government employee, I had occasion to adjudicate issues of alleged ethical misconduct. Moreover, I myself was subject to a strict code of ethical conduct. Given this experience, I feel compelled to speak today, not at all to criticize you, the planning board, in any way, but rather to question the actions of the town board that impact the resolution that is before you today. Specifically, you received a letter dated March 30th that Angela referred to, signed by the supervisor and members Rothwell and Bayrod, stating that newly disclosed information regarding the proposed height of structures on the NextEra site plan would not have changed the town board's secret neg deck on this project that was issued by resolution dated February 4th, 2020. As I stated in my email, such a determination by the town board should have been done not in a letter signed by just the 3 town board members, but by resolution before the entire town board with an opportunity for public input. The height of structures and their placement are a critical part of a secret evaluation on a project such as this. But even worse, the 3 signatories on the letter did not constitute a valid majority of the town board. First, the supervisor voted against the February 2020 neg deck. So how does she know how the 3 board members who voted for the neg deck would now view the impact of the site plan changes? Second, member Rothwell was not on the town board, as Angela pointed out. So how does he know how this new information would have impacted the neg deck determination? And third, and most disturbing of all, is member Bayrod's self-acknowledged conflict of interest that should have compelled him to recuse himself from signing that March 30th letter. Specifically, in September 2020, member Bayrod recused himself from voting on a solar moratorium in Riverhead because, in his own words, "My family has a sod farm which Solar 2 is a part of." Well, in the newly disclosed information you received in February of this year, in addition to the height changes, there is notice of an easement agreement between NextEra and Solar 2, an easement that by its terms has the potential to greatly benefit Solar 2. Unless Mr. Bayrod's family has divested itself of the sod farm, of which Solar 2 is a part, his conflict of interest persists. The ethics of the situation have not changed, and he should have recused himself from signing the March 30th letter. Now, I don't know if this matter is pending before the Town Ethics Board, but I do know that as a part of local government, you, the planning board, did not move forward on this site plan in light of the very real question as to whether the newly disclosed information from NextEra is consistent with the SECRA neg deck. I ask you to table this resolution until this question is properly resolved. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McGraw. Next speaker, John Harrison. Mr. Harrison, are you on?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and I'd like to say thank you to the board for allowing us to participate today. I'm from Riverhead and a local electrician and own my own business here in Riverhead. I'm kind of been listening to along the lines of everybody else that already spoke. I was just curious, how can the plans be changed with no resolution presented? I believe it was on March 4th, the town board said that there would be a resolution and then a decision would be made. And I don't believe that's happened as of yet. And then quickly, how can a substation be approved with an incorrect site plan? And then finally, why are these changes being allowed without it being handled properly? So along the lines that it's already been said by other people, I just don't want to continue the same thing. Just a reminder, I was the one who put that petition up, and it is steadily climbing in the community. It's close to 700 people now that are dead set against this happening. People seem to be quite outraged that things are happening the way they are. That's all. Thank you very much.
Mr. Harrison, were you able to submit that petition in some format for the record?
Yes, I sent it. I was requested to send it to the planning board and the town board, and I sent the email to both.
Okay, thank you.
When was that?
Short, maybe a day after the last meeting, within a day after the last meeting.
Greg, did we receive that?
I did not receive it. I don't know.
I didn't receive it either.
Who did you send it to?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I'd have to check my records, check my phone records.
Okay.
We don't
But I
have
could
it.
definitely, like I said, I'm a resident, so I could even stop by. I live very close.
Send a copy.
Yeah, if you could resubmit it or hand deliver it, please.
I absolutely will.
Thank you. The next speaker we have is from Calverton Civic, Ms. Terhune. Takwi Turchin. Ms. Turchin? Ms. Turchin, are you on? You may be muted. Ms. Turchin? Okay, we're not hearing you, so we'll come back to you. We'll give you another shot. Craig Dahlgren?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Craig Dahlgren. I live at 2764 River Road, Calverton. My property adjoins the farm property that is part of the solar proposal. I have submitted some requests to the planning board for modifications to the site plan on this project so that it would be less visible from my home. I hope that the board has reviewed these comments and will implement them if for some reason this project progresses. And I would also like to express my overall disapproval of this project. For more than 100 years, these pieces of property have been used for farming and more recently recreation. With the town about to undergo a master plan update, it would be nice if the residents of this area had an opportunity to have a say in what our neighborhood will look like for the foreseeable future. It's important to mention that with both of these pieces of land, it's not a situation of a lifelong landowner or farmer looking to sell so that they can retire. Both of these pieces of land are owned by real estate investors. A little further information on these properties. I've heard comments that, well, it's fallow farmland, why not put solar on it? The reason that this land is not being farmed as aggressively as it was just a few years ago is because the landowner will no longer sign multi-year leases with the farmer because of the anticipated solar project. The farmer needs to buy his supplies in bulk, a few seasons worth, to make it profitable, and doesn't want to risk his investment on one-year growing leases. I believe there is a strong desire to farm this land. The Calverton Links section is used for recreational activities and hosts numerous events through the year, food festivals to holiday light shows. This will clearly no longer take place here. So will these possibly move to another spot in Riverhead? It's a question. Will these events disappear for good? Will these events be moved to another township? The next point I'd like to bring up is property values. In the applicant's packet available through the Riverhead Town website, they cited a solar farm in, I believe, what was Chicago, stating that they did a study that there was no impact on surrounding property values. Obviously, this is not Chicago. Looking out the back of my window, I can see a half mile across rolling farm fields. Those fields are the ones slated to become solar panels. Despite the proposed vegetation buffers, the small elevation changes on the property will make this visible from my home. You can't honestly believe that this will not affect my home's value. The Peconic River Herb Farm made a social media post about this solar project. A previous resident of Shoreham commented on the post and said that they were in contract to sell their home, which adjoined a proposed solar project. While in contract to sell, their solar project started. When the buyers found out what was happening, they pulled out of the sale. The result was the homeowner had a hard time selling, had to relist and accept a lower price. Some overall potential issues I see with the project. I mentioned the small elevation changes and rolling farm fields. Will there be glare issues from these solar panels? Also, will covering the landscape in dark solar panels that absorb heat change localized temperatures to some extent? Also, there's a section of state land between the two projects called Canoe Lake. This property is open for recreation uses. Duck and goose hunters often hunt back there legally. And they've been doing so for many years, longer than we've been alive. Will falling shot from these hunters affect or break solar panels? And then will the solar company attempt to close hunting in the area? An activity that's taken place far longer than all of this solar. When we look at other solar projects in the town, there are very few homes involved in the proximity. The first solar project off Edwards Avenue, I looked on Google Earth and noticed 3 homes that were in view of the solar project, 2 of which are used as commercial properties. The solar project behind the charter school, I see 1 home which appears to be used as a commercial building. The one east of EPCAL, I see 1 home which is used as a commercial building. On this project, there will be 10 homes in which the project on River Road will likely be visible, 3 of which directly adjoin this project. On the Calverton Links side, it looks like there will be visible from 4 residents, 1 residence directly adjoining, and an additional 3 commercial/residential buildings. In closing, residents of the area on River Road have a strong sense of community, pride, and appreciation for our little area. Most of us have lived here a very long time or have moved to this area for the atmosphere it provides. A project of this magnitude will drastically change that for what will be the rest of our lives for most of us. Riverhead is losing farmland faster than any other town on Long Island, and it's gaining solar faster than any other town in New York State. Is that what we really want our town to look like? Thank you.
Greg, did you forward Mr. Dolman's letter to the applicant, NextEra? I know we talked about it.
So I've spoke with Mr. Dahlgren on several occasions. Now, his letter was not forwarded to the applicant. All of the correspondence that we've received in the last couple of days has been forwarded to the town board. And specifically, just so you're aware and so Mr. Dahlgren can hear, there is a condition in the resolution that they need to increase the landscaping buffer in the area abutting his house. And I did speak about that with the applicant. They were agreeable to it. So prior to any final approvals, they'll need to come back with the amended landscaping plan to show the additional plantings in that area.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have the speaker from Calverton Civic on? Toqui?
Uh,
Yes, here we go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now.
Thank you very much for your patience. My name is Takwi Turchin. I happen to be the president of the Calverton Civic. And I've heard today folks talking about the process and that they're quite disturbed about it. I have to join them. If nothing else, whether we like or we do not like a project intending to do business in our town, we rely on the consistency of a process that unfolds in front of us. This project has not followed the procedure and the process necessary for it. I've spoken with several residents who live in that quaint little neighborhood of River Road, Railroad Avenue, Triangle Lane, and Private Road. And consistently, through reading their letters that they've submitted to you today and speaking with them on the phone, two things have occurred. One is they're all four really like the idea of alternative energy. However, because of the process that this project has gone through, they don't see it as being looked into as deeply as necessary. And so they're torn. You know, do they want to help out the energy and usage of not our town, but this energy will be going to the South Fork to facilitate the demand on the South Fork where they can't build fields like this. And they're torn between that and seeing these things. And no matter how much you shield them, the undulating land is going to be seen. On top of which, there's a health concern over the high voltage substation that no one has addressed on any scale. Neither the applicant coming forward themselves nor the process being allowed to reveal it. The neighbors are concerned. They're voicing their concerns today. And I believe they're going to continue to voice their concerns. I hope that they do continue to write in letters. This process is not on the right footing. And planning board, with respect to your position on this, and I see it as your hands are tied. Maybe you have avenues I'm not familiar with. Certainly, I'm not a professional in this process. I do wish that this process could be reopened in SECRA and properly vetted. Give the applicant a fair chance. Let them give themselves a fair chance to reveal all that this project will entail and impact. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Ms. Turchin. Okay, so we're going to come back to Ed Graham. And Mr. Graham, if I could just suggest, if you turn off your camera, the feed may come through better and it won't be all chopped up. We'll be able to hear you better. That's the first thing. And the second thing I'd like to say is that, you spoke at the last hearing when it was open, and all of your comments are part of the record. So, try not to repeat everything you said last time because, the board is well aware of your comments from last time.
Okay, well, I'm going to say a few other different things, if that's okay.
That's fine, thank you.
I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. Obviously, the whole process, as you can generally tell by some of your other speakers, was very flawed. A lot of people don't really understand the risk that is involved in what you're contemplating. And as part of the planning board, it's kind of like your duty to understand what's going on here. Okay, solar panels are not innocent. Okay, there's a lot of hazardous waste. Okay, you can go anywhere online and you can find it. Okay, and this people don't realize there's chemicals that will affect the land, our water in the future, whether it happens right away due to a hurricane, a storm, tornado. A tornado happened in Manorville last year. There was one in Islip 2 years ago. Hailstorms, hurricanes, all these solar farms across the country are being affected by different things that occur by nature. There's also been hacking and terrorist attacks and all that stuff on the grid. And we're putting ourselves and our island in jeopardy whenever we contemplate something this huge. This is 1,000 acres. It's not going to stop with this project here. They plan on doing another 600 more acres, or a total of 600, 700, 800, 900 acres of land in Calverton alone, which is incredibly irresponsible. But the whole thing is, if you look at this, the possibility of loss or injury, someone or something that creates or suggests a hazard, the chance of loss or the perils of, it's like a matter of an insurance contract, also the degree of probability of such loss. A person or thing that is a specified hazard, an insurance hazard from a specified cause of more risk, it is to expose to hazard, danger, risk or life, to incur risk or danger of breaking. This is risk, okay? And it says the legal system has recognized when a community acts to prevent harm, it is not just doing its job, it's fulfilling a critical duty. That's what you're doing. The planning board, you're fulfilling a critical duty. Protecting the people and the property is one of the fundamental duties of all levels of government. One of the most effective ways that local governments protect is through permitting processes. None of this, like there's, riparian rights, since water is not owned by property owners whose land abuts or adjoin a lake or stream, common law extends protection to water quality through riparian rights. Riparian rights to water are user rights that allow water users to sue those who damage water quality to the point where its use or enjoyment are reduced. There's trespass laws. Everybody believes in the owner's property rights. That's fantastic. But if their property rights can infringe on a community, it's up to the planning board to figure that out and to decide, hey, is this a worthy use of that property or not? And the town planning board taking lead agency on this was a big mistake. They should never have been granted that opportunity. All these executive orders that have been dished down from the governor's office have caused chaos because nothing is being done right. I've been a witness at these hearings. 5 people at most on Zoom, 2 p.m. during a day, during a week. Who's going to take the time out of their day to sit there for 3 hours and go through this with 5 minutes of comments where there's no back and forth? They hear your questions and then they can or they don't have to address those answers. This is crazy. And the fact that, the amount of research that I've done personally on solar farms would stagger people, okay? It's just, they are going through this in a way that is just not even fit to the people. The people should know the danger or the risk potentially. What they do is that, like I've looked at the annual reports for NextEra, okay, this particular company. And in there, they describe the risk factors. They list the risk factors to their investors, to their unit holders. And in those risk factors, they state that, here, I'll give you breakdown or failure, damage, turbines, blades, solar panels, which could reduce the project's energy output or result in personal injury or loss of life. Catastrophic events such as fires, earthquakes, severe weather, tornadoes, ice, hail, storms, other meteorological conditions, landslides, other similar events beyond NextEra's control could severely damage or destroy all of or part of a project, reduce its energy output and result in personal injury or life. Technical performance, they just list all the different risks. The potential investor might lose his money, his investment in. Why was this not done to the public? We should have known about these risks. Whose job is it to explain the risks to the community? there's somebody that's got to be accountable for that. There's nobody. They say there's no cadmium in their panels. Okay, so what chemicals are in their panels? There's lead. There's all kinds of other chemicals that are bad for the environment and bad for our water supplies that cause lead. I mean, all these things are components. There's a chemical process that happens when the sun comes down. There's a process, and if those panels are damaged in any capacity or they get old in life, I can show you, like.
All right, Mr. Graham?
You look here.
Yeah,
you look here. Look.
I'm going to kindly ask you to please summarize. I think we understand where you're coming from and what your position is, and some of these things you
But
had covered in the last
amount
hearing.
of solar waste that is going to be, I mean, more than 46 billion pounds of waste was generated from solar companies in California between 2007 and 2011, while 97% of the waste remained in California. Those 1.4 million pounds of hazardous material was shipped to other sites across the country. So there is tremendous amounts of waste. What are we doing to Calverton? What are we doing to Long Island? This does not belong here. No company should be allowed to actually put solar panels on Long Island. It's an island. Our ground is sand. If something happens, that is going directly into our water supply. Look at Nassau County, look at Suffolk, Brookhaven, the waters are tainted. Out here, we have pure water, and you guys are battling over Suffolk rights, Riverhead water rights. Who's going to trust our water supply if we're putting chemicals above it? It may not happen this year, it may not happen next year, it may not happen 5 years from now, but they're talking about putting solar panels above our water for the next 30 plus years. You don't think that a hurricane, Gloria, Hugo, Bob, they say that these things can withstand 140 mile an hour winds. It's been found out that they can't withstand 60 mile an hour winds. So who are the experts on this? There are no experts. This is a new technology. There's more new technologies coming out every minute. Why do we got to suck up all the land that could be used? This is viable land. You know, you want to put it on brownfields, landfills, great. But you know what? They can't even put the solar panels, the dead ones, in landfills because it's toxic. So what are we doing here? Like, this takes more time, more planning, and to rush through this through executive orders from the governor, who made executive orders to where our nursing homes suffered. Why are we doing this?
Mr. Graham, I'm going to ask you to please summarize.
What's going to happen,
Mr. Graham?
5 years from now?
I'm going to ask you to please summarize. I let you go for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I get it. And like I said, this is something that should have been done in a public hearing where there's more time to discuss a lot more of the issues. You know, there's so many more issues. Fires, lithium batteries that explode. There's so many different things that they don't even allow, they don't even count.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, it looks like we lost you, Mr. Graham. We lost your feed or something, but we understand where you're coming from. You clearly made your point several times on this issue. Are there any other residents or anyone that wants to speak? I see a hand up. Just please identify yourself.
John McAuliffe. I'm from the Rolling Woods section of Riverhead, over by the Sound. Frequently, I drive down Edwards Avenue and going to 495 or other places, and it has struck me that Edwards Avenue is beginning to lose its identity. It's beginning to become another 58 or become like the areas further west of us. And I think that the planning board, in essence, has become the conscience of the town. This was referred to earlier in terms of the process of how it's gotten this far, and you're in the position to stop it from going further. So I, like a lot of people, have contradictory feelings about solar. I think obviously our whole society has to find new ways of gaining power. Nobody wants it. The classic term is NIMBY, not in my backyard. But I think there are legitimate concerns. The point that was made about land that could have been used for farming but hasn't been because of speculation is particularly disturbing. I think you can put a stop to that by rejecting this plan. But the last thing I wanted to say was simply wondering about language. I don't know who came up with the term solar farm. It's been around a long time, and maybe it's accidental, and maybe someone put a lot of effort into figuring out how to describe what is an industrialization of rural areas to make it sound benign. It's not a farm. There's nothing natural that is being planted and harvested, and it should not be treated as that. There are places in this country which are, there isn't agriculture, which would be much more appropriate, which have better exposure to sun than Riverhead does. We can think of a day like today. And I think that it's really up to you to stop this process in its tracks and force the board to take political responsibility for it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCullough. Diane Tucci? Ms. Tucci?
Hi, good afternoon. How are you today?
Good, thanks.
Thank you. So I'm Diane Tucci. I'm a lifelong resident of Riverhead. I was born and raised here. I'm a business owner, and I'm a mother raising a young family here in Riverhead. Personally, I'm concerned over the impact of so many solar panels being placed on our precious farmland and the potential loss of Long Island Sports Park, which is one of the only outdoor recreational facilities that we have in the town of Riverhead, one that also employs many of our youth and provides them with much needed outdoor space, particularly during this pandemic, and also a business who's been an amazing positive contributor to our community on many levels. I've listened to the comments today and more to come, and implore that you listen to everybody who's come here to speak today and that due diligence is done on the behalf of the Riverhead residents, many of whom are not aware of this public hearing, are not able to attend these hearings, and also many who don't even know how to have their voice heard. It's a small group of us who step up and have the courage to talk at these meetings and speak our mind, and there's so many people who just don't know how to handle the process. So on their behalf, I hope that you listen to everybody and make decisions that really reflect the best interests of the community. And that's it. Thank you for your time today, and short and sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tucci. Barbara Blass?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. My name is Barbara Blass, and I live in Jamesport. I appreciate this opportunity, and you'll all be happy to know that I crossed off several of the paragraphs I was going to read because others had so.
The town board does not vote on unions, right?
No.
Okay. Someone, hello, someone is speaking over Ms. Blass. You probably don't know you're unmuted, so please mute yourself. We can hear what your conversation is. Ms. Blass, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. The NextEra application submitted to the town in September of 2018 should have really been rejected at that time as incomplete. The application remains incomplete as we speak today. I'll spare you the citation, but our code requires that the application include elevation plans for all faces of all buildings and structures. That means elevations from the north, east, south, and west, and would include the substation and the equipment building. Today, we have elevation A, the view of the substation looking north, and that's it. Elevations which are needed to assess the visual impact of all buildings and structures were not submitted to the town during its SECRA review. As you know, visual impact is not assessed solely by the height of a structure or building. No action should have been taken, and certainly no action should be taken today, until that required information is supplied by the applicant. Again, back to our code, section 282E requires a minimum 25-foot vegetated perimeter buffer to provide year-round screening from adjacent properties and a minimum 50-foot vegetated buffer along the roads. That would be Edwards Avenue and River Road. I could be wrong, but I do not see the 50-foot vegetated buffer reflected on these plans. If that is the case, how do we get to preliminary approval when fundamental requirements of our code are not met? Why is it okay to keep kicking the can down the road? In that same vein, your resolution includes a condition that the plan must address the comments received from the Central Pine Barrens Commission in their letter dated June of 2019. They are listed 10 separate standards with a request for a significant amount of additional information to demonstrate compliance. That was in 2019, and now the resolution is allowing the applicant to wait until the final map before demonstrating compliance and getting approval from the commission. How likely is it that, if needed, the applicant will agree to make the changes to the plan? More likely than not, they'll seek a hardship relief instead. This kind of information being requested by an involved agency is usually gathered in an EIS to avoid these very circumstances. The resolution also references a memo from our town engineer dated April 10th, 2019, with 10 comments on 8 specific drawings. Has the town engineer's concerns been addressed to his satisfaction? I see no revised drawings to address those specific concerns, but I could be wrong. And finally, in February 2021, the board received a copy of an easement agreement signed in 2019 where NextEra agreed to negotiate with S-Power 2 to provide them with easements and any other real property rights for any project within a 10-mile radius of the easement area. Do we know any more about what an approval of NextEra may mean for other S-Power projects in Calverton? Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this is far from an administrative site plan where there is discretionary relief from certain code requirements. There is an expectation on the part of our community that its leaders follow the law. You're being asked to act on an application that doesn't comply with our local laws and a site plan which requires that the applicant provide information that has been requested of them for years. Please stop kicking the can down the road and reject this application and preliminary site plan today. I thank you very much for your time and attention.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Blass. Steve C., do you wish to speak today? Steve C.? Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to speak at this public hearing today? Anyone else on the call? You can either raise your hand or unmute yourself. Okay, I would just like to point out that we received many written correspondence from people over the last week or two. I would just like to mention their names because their comments are part of the record. Christina Spindler, Michelle Smith, Kathleen McGraw, Linda Nemeth, Tricia Yakuboski, Tony Arno, Barbara Blass, Craig Dahlgren, Jeannie Zeltman, John Murray, Monique Parsons, and Kyle Allen. And every one of those people who wrote to us were either against the project or environmentally concerned about the project. And your comments, I just want you to know, are part of, they were received and are part of the record. Okay, I'll ask one more time, anyone else from the public who wishes to speak? Anyone at all? Okay. What's pleasure on this public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing of Calverton Solar Energy NextEra. So moved.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to close the public hearing for NextEra. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Okay, we move on to resolutions.
Public comments then?
Public comments on resolutions before we take them up. Are there any public comments on the resolutions today? Anyone want to speak on the resolutions we're going to consider today? Okay. We have one? Ed Graham?
Yeah, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to, I mean, when you say that you're closing the resolution, what does that exactly mean, like, as far as what you're concerned? Because, you know, is this going to be still thought about or addressed at a later date? Or is there going to be another hearing on this where you can hear more people?
So we officially just closed the public hearing, so the public comment section is over, but the public can still comment as we contemplate resolutions. You know, I want to just point out that I don't disagree with most of the comments that we heard today. In fact, I agree with most of them. But, you know, we were advised by our planning board counsel of our, you know, from a legal standpoint on how to proceed. So that's what's, you know, moving this along. We have an obligation to move it along, to get it to a vote. We've attempted to capture a lot of this in the resolution, and it's going to be up to this board. I do think it was well vetted. We received a lot of public comments on it, and we'll discuss it, I'm sure, when the resolution comes up, and we'll have a vote on it here very shortly today.
As far as the letters are concerned, you know, like you said you received letters.
Yes.
Are they being read, or I mean, they've been read, or are they being read?
Every board member received them. Every board member received them, and they are part of the record.
Okay, and then what about? Is there a 10-day thing where you can, you know, send other letters, or is, you know, like why is it being?
Well, it's been open for quite some
10
time.
days.
It's been open for quite some time, and I really think we gave the public a very good opportunity to comment on this application, both in an evening meeting, a day meeting, and in writing. So I think we've been very fair and open as far as receiving public comment on it. And, you know, we hear the public, and we're gonna consider it as we contemplate this resolution.
Now, Mr. Chairman, Stephen LaSquadra on behalf of the applicant.
Yes.
I just wanted to note that obviously there were many things that were said today that essentially were said previously. And so therefore, we rely on the comments and expert testimony and all of the record that we presented that reflects and demonstrates that the vast majority of what was said is either highly inaccurate or quite frankly, just not germane as it relates to the town board or it relates to the secret process, all of which, by the way, has been addressed by Mr. Ehlers. And so I won't rehash any of that, but I do just want to make sure that the board is aware that if there's anything that anyone wishes to ask of me, or if there's anything that you want to know of the applicant as you move forward with the vote on the resolution, that we're very happy to answer any of those questions. And further, I would note a draft resolution, and we've gone over that in great detail with Mr. Bergman and have expressed our very substantial agreement with it.
Okay.
So I thank Mr. Bergman for of course, his diligence, not just within the past week in that aspect of the process, but of course throughout the entire process.
Okay, thank you. Greg?
Yeah, I just wanted to. Sorry.
Can I interrupt while we have Mr. LaSquadra available? Mr. LaSquadra, George Nanella from the planning board. We've heard so much negativity here today. I wonder if you could make some comment for the public that's here to let them know some of the advantages that have not come out to this solar farm. Some of the things that are going to be given to the town during this process of the life of this solar farm. Would you be able to comment on that?
Isn't that part of the
yes, sir.
special permit process and not necessarily the site plan application?
Yeah, I mean, there are community benefit agreements, there are, I know George asked for Mr. LaSquadro, but I mean, there are community benefit agreements that were required as part of the special permit. There is the recreational easement over that, the area along the western side of that property, in addition to other benefits, but I'll let
Okay.
Mr. LaSquadro.
Well, first of all, I do appreciate that opportunity. These are things that have been vetted and explained over quite some period of time. And remember, there was an entire special permit process and hearing that took place before the town board. But just to offer and to make sure that everyone is aware of some of the highlights that, again, have been set forth on the public record. There is a pilot that pays over its course approximately $9 million. There's a community benefit agreement that was negotiated with the town board and the town attorney's office, and that's $1.5 million. There's the easement of $450,000 just to cross Edwards Avenue, and that's only going to be by way of directional drilling, so the roadway will not be disturbed. So all of this is a net benefit to the town. In addition to all of these very substantial benefits, which will enable the town to, as the town board pointed out, and as the town board in fact instructed and put in writing in the community benefit agreement, it will allow the town to benefit and aid very important groups that need such assistance within the town, such as schools, first responders, our fire department, our police department. All of this money will be earmarked for those who can put it to good use for the public's benefit, for the town's benefit, as directed by the town board. So all of that was part of a very collaborative process, a very well-vetted process, a process, by the way, that saw the community benefits for this project be much greater in scope, not just in total, but also on a percentage basis for this project as opposed to any other project that's been considered by the town board. So with all of that in mind, and taking into account the fact that this is not farmland, it is industrially zoned land. It's not recreationally zoned land. It's industrially zoned land. We heard from individuals who spoke about the character of Edwards Avenue and not wanting to have burdensome uses and highly impactful uses that could affect them. And we know, of course, that this property is zoned for industrial warehouses, which is not an ideal use, we could all agree. Not only would it not bring Mr. Nenaro the very substantial monetary benefits that we just spoke about, that will benefit all town residents and be put to very good use in so many aspects of town life, but it will also bring traffic and noise and pollution and trucks and all sorts of things that people just do not want because they have very substantial and long-term impacts that, of course, renewable energy does not have. And of course, we know as well, too, that the energy that's provided, which is not fossil fuel generated, therefore not causing pollution, benefits all residents within the LIPA system, including the town of Riverhead. Some said that the energy would be sent elsewhere. We know, and that's actually been shown to be demonstrably false. This benefits town of Riverhead residents. It's renewable energy, it's clean, there are no emissions, there's no pollution, there's no traffic. And in addition to all of that, we have honored the requests for landscaping, and all of that additional money is being spent for the betterment of the project within the confines of the Edwards Avenue corridor. So, Mr. Nenaro, I hope that gives a sufficient overview, and I thank you for the opportunity, and all of the board members, I thank all of you for the opportunity to, again, set forth those benefits that were explained and made part of the record at very great length during the special permit process before the town board.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you. Who? Mr. Harrison?
Yes, I just wanted to give you the information where I sent that petition link was asked to send it to wilhelm@townofriverhead.gov.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Carey?
Mr. DeVito?
Yes, Mr. Carey, I just would like to reiterate that the objection, and the objection of many of the people I've spoken to, is not the benefits that we're getting. And, you know, when you look at the community benefit agreements that have been provided by developers elsewhere across the island, what Riverhead is receiving as a lump sum is really bupkis bucks. But putting that aside, the real issue is that we have before us a flawed process, and you are being asked to sustain this flawed process by virtue of your resolution. Now, I obviously am not privy to the discussions that counsel to the planning board had with members of the planning board on this, but the thing that I do know is that you cannot amend a SEQA determination once there has been an action and the special permit is the action taken on it, okay? You cannot do that. You have to go back, rescind what you do, and start again. That's the point. There's no objection to whether or not this is an appropriate project for the land that's there, from my perspective, but it is to the process and to the fact that I see you as a planning board getting sucked into a bad decision based on inadequate and incomplete materials. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Okay, so we're going to move to the resolutions at this point.
I'll move resolution number 27, assuming a lead agency and positive deck for Calverton Tree Farm.
Second the motion?
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve resolution 27 for Calverton Tree Farm for a positive declaration. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved. Number 39.
I'll move resolution number 39, which is the Calverton Solar Energy NextEra granting preliminary site plan approval. So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve resolution 39 for Calverton Solar Energy NextEra. I think it's important on this one that we go board member to board member, and if you want to speak or make a comment, go right ahead. If not, just please cast your vote for the record. I'll start with member Joe Bear.
Okay, I'm voting no on this resolution because I don't think we've addressed enough of the tower and the substation.
Okay, member O'Day?
My vote is no.
Okay, member Nunaro, George?
My vote is yes.
Okay, member Dentieski?
Written down a few points that I would like to say if I could. One, solar energy creates clean energy. It creates renewable energy. It helps America become more energy independent. It creates no noise, no leaf blowers, no lawnmowers, no barking dogs, etc., etc. Creates no traffic. Creates no light pollution. Creates no housing. Puts no children in our overbloated school system. They will pay large taxes or pilot payments to the town. The planning board's role in this application is site plan. We are not policymakers. We don't make the policy, the town board does. Our job is to do the best job we can with the site plan. We've added tons of landscape, and I believe we have done just that. But the biggest reason I'm going to support this is I believe the owner has property rights, and I will always support individual property rights. Your neighbor doesn't owe you a vista. Whether I not like it or not, I will still support those rights as long as it's in the proper zoning. And with that stated, I will vote yes.
Okay. Some of the comments with regard to the community benefit money, I'm certainly not going to put a price tag on the aesthetic concerns that so many people spoke about during this whole process and the impact to the rural character of the town. It's very important that we consider what the residents are telling us. I am concerned with the visual impacts and location of the step-up facility in relation to Edwards Avenue. The height of the structure, tower, lightning rod, or however you want to label it, was an issue that created much public input and concern. I'd like to make 2 points. One, the solar project located across the street has their step-up facility and antenna located over 500 feet off the road. 2, the planning board asked the applicant if they were willing to relocate the structures further off Edwards Avenue, and they responded with several reasons that were not acceptable. The most noted being, we already purchased material and equipment. This, I point out, was done without any planning board approval of this project. So the applicant was not willing to work with the planning board to deliver a project acceptable to the planning board and public. This is documented in several of the meeting minutes, and for these reasons, I vote no. So this resolution is defeated, 3-2.
Chairman,
Yes.
could we amend or redo the resolution again to include the requirement that they move the substation and the antenna back at least 300 feet from Edwards Avenue?
Well, I guess it's possible if someone wants to. I mean, we've done it in the past for other resolutions. We amend them kind of on the fly. If someone wants to propose that, Greg.
Well, I'd like to propose it because I think if we can include that, it would change my vote.
Greg, where could we?
Okay, so, I mean, if the pulse of the board is they would support an amended resolution, I would recommend that we would include that on page number 11. The most appropriate location, in my opinion, would be condition number 12 states that, quote, that 10 sets of revised plans must be submitted for review for final site plan approval and shall include the following revisions. I mean, based on Mr. Bayer's comments, I would probably think something along the lines of that the electric step-up facility shown in the site plan to be located adjacent to Edwards Avenue shall be relocated to a location not less than 300 feet from Edwards Avenue with necessary planting and screen.
West.
300 feet west from Edwards Avenue with necessary planting and screening, with such location and screening to be reviewed and approved at the time of final site plan approval by the planning board. This condition is necessary to comply with the secret record of the lead agency, which relied upon the applicant's environmental assessment form, which stated that no structures would exceed 11 feet in height in order to preserve the aesthetic quality and rural character, and is consistent with all other solar energy site plan approvals granted by the planning board.
The height would impress me, if that could be somehow done away with or changed.
I'd like to move it. You won't see
Right,
it.
so, Joe, you are offering this as amended, as
Yes.
described by
Greg.
by Greg. Okay.
We've already had a vote on this resolution. You're going to use the same resolution?
Well, it's being offered as an amended resolution
Yeah, okay.
to include moving the facility, step-up facility antennas no less than 300 feet off of Edwards Avenue. Is that accurate, Greg?
That is correct. That's what Member Bayer said, yes.
So it's just an addition to one of the conditions.
What other height items do we have there that would make sense?
I think one of the other items, which is already in the preliminary, the property along River Road that had the concerns of screening.
Yes, that is included in the condition. Like I said, condition 12, subsection, bear with me for one moment. It's condition 12, subsection V, landscaping shall be added near the southwest corner of Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-136-1-2 in a form approved by the Planning Board to provide visual screening of the proposed facility from the residents of Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-144-1-2. And that was discussed with the applicant, and they did agree to install additional landscaping there.
All right, so I think what we have here is a proposed amendment to Resolution 39 by Member Joe Bear. You want to officially move that, Joe?
I'll move it, that we include it and we reconsider the resolution.
Is there a second to that amendment?
A little more clarity.
May I speak?
Is there a second to that amended resolution?
You should allow her to speak.
Okay, so there's no second to the resolution, so as of right now, the Resolution 39 has been defeated. Has been defeated. 3 no and 2 yes. Let's move on to.
I'll second it.
Excuse me?
I'll second it.
You're going to second it? Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend Resolution 39.
You can't go back on a decision you've just made.
Can you please mute everyone? Yeah.
We're in the middle of a vote.
So we are in the middle of a vote. We're not taking any more public comments.
You voted and now you're undoing a vote. Who's your parliamentarian?
Can you turn it off?
I say you should consult your,
No, it's okay. Turn it back on. Okay.
Okay, so I think maybe what we could do is, we do have a motion and a second. We have amended resolutions in the past and voted on them and added comments. If he's available, that would be great. So before we vote on this, I'm just going to put a placeholder on it. We will come back to it in a few minutes, and let's continue with the resolutions.
I'll move resolution number 40 for 40 Manor Lane LLC, granting approval for a 2-lot minor subdivision. So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 40 on Manor Lane, granting approval for a 2-lot minor subdivision. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's approved. 41.
Laconic Iron Works, resolution granting preliminary approval for a preliminary site plan application seeking approval to construct a new 1,410 square foot modular office building, as well as perform lighting, landscaping, parking, and drainage improvements at the site at the parcel located at 168 Cromer Avenue.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 41, Peconic Iron Works. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution's approved. 42.
I'll move resolution number 42, assumes lead agency and negative deck and administrative approval for 54 West Main Street.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 54 for administrative site, Resolution 42 for 54 West Main Street for administrative site plan approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution's approved. 43.
I'll move resolution number 43 for SL Gateway LLC, granting preliminary site plan approval. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 43 for SL Gateway. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved. Okay,
Do the minutes.
I think, George, are you still with us? I didn't hear you, George, if you could hit *6 on your phone. Yes, now we got you. Just wanted to make sure you were still with us. So
We'll do the minutes.
we could do the minutes of previous meeting from April 1st.
I'll move the minutes of April 1st.
Second the motion?
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of April 1st. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. I'm going to make a motion that we take a 5-minute recess, if we could, please. We'll be back in 5 minutes. If you could keep it rolling, I'd appreciate it, because it will be a brief break. So motion to take a short recess?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, George, could you unmute yourself again, please? Just want to make sure we can hear you. Star 6, George.
Okay, you got me now,
Yes,
right?
we got you, thank you. So, we are live, correct? Okay, so thank you for bearing with me. I wanted to get an opinion from a town attorney. I wasn't sure if they were still in the building, being that it's 5:30. I was able to get an opinion from a town attorney on procedural matters, on how this has developed here today. So I did get that opinion, and the opinion is that since we voted on the resolution and it has already been defeated and closed, we cannot amend it here today. I did reference that we've done that in the past. However, I should note that it was always amended before we voted. Being that we voted, the vote stands, and it's not appropriate or procedurally correct for us to amend it at this juncture. But I will note that some board members raised some issues that may be acceptable. So we're probably going to ask planning staff to go back to the applicant and discuss those amendments, and it could come back up for a vote at a future meeting. But as of today's meeting, the vote stands as being defeated 3-2. With that, we're going to go to, we already did the minutes of the last meeting. We're going to go to public comments on all matters. Can we open it up again, please, Chip? Okay, Ms. Judd?
I'm sorry, when you guys were doing the resolution for SL Gateway, the sound went out, so my clients and I weren't able to hear if it was approved or not.
Yes, it was approved.
Thank you, have a good
You're
day,
welcome. You
everybody.
too. Any other public comments on any matter in front of the planning board?
They can't unmute themselves now.
You can unmute yourself if you want to speak.
John McCall.
John McCullough. Mr. McCullough?
Yes, again, John McCullough from Rolling Woods in Riverhead. I just wanted to congratulate you and the town attorney for following a principled position and withstanding whatever pressures there were to go ahead on this. I think that this really goes back to the population of the town, which needs to decide exactly what its future looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Any other public comment?
Craig Dahlgren.
Mr. Dahlgren? Mr. Dahlgren, if you could unmute, I think your hand is raised.
Sorry, yes, hello.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of mixed feelings on this solar project because clean energy is a good thing, and we realize that this is less impactful than some other uses of this land. However, there was some good points brought up about the process and how it may not have been done properly. Additionally, there's a lot of emphasis on this substation. So this project presumably is probably going to come back around. The applicant's going to resubmit something moving that substation, and then the board will be more open to it. As a resident of the little community on the River Road portion, again, this is going to come back around. In addition to the substation being the main issue over on Edwards Avenue, would the planning board work with the applicant and potentially slide some of this project that borders River Road and our residences to the north a little bit, essentially eliminate a handful, a couple rows of solar panels? Maybe not the whole project, but if you're going to work to alleviate the situation on Edwards Avenue, work with us down here to alleviate our concerns. Because like I said, a lot of us are on the fence about this project. It may not be the worst thing in the world, but there's some things that I think could be done to help both parties get to a point to agree upon. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Graham?
Yeah, and I want to thank you guys for actually doing the right thing for, that was the right thing for Calverton as well. And I don't believe that this should just be a delay process. I think that you guys should really send it back, and you guys should take lead agency and address all the environmental concerns as well. I mean, the fact that it got to this point, you know, it's a scary thought. And I believe that you guys are in a position that if you learn more about what's going on, you'll see the same things that the 700 people that signed that petition also see. And it's very important that you do that, because it appears one of your board members doesn't believe, you know, that actually believes that this is clean, super clean energy, when there's, you know, I mean, renewable energy is a misnomer. You know, wind, solar machines, and batteries are built from non-renewable materials. And as they wear out, old equipment must be decommissioned, generating millions of tons of waste. So, you know, the more you guys learn about it, the more you'll be in a better position to get this out for the whole area of Calverton and Long Island. And that, you know, I just want, you know, I'm proud of you guys for standing up, you know, but, you know, do a little bit more due diligence, maybe put yourselves in the position of lead agency somehow and take control of this.
Unfortunately, on this application, we can't do that. We're past that already. The town board wanted it.
Was that
The town board wanted it. They made that determination, and it's out. We're site plan review only on this application at this point. But thank you for your comments.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
You will.
Ms. McGraw?
Yes, I would just like to say that it seems to me that the neg deck is still an issue here, because you had 3 names on the letter, and Mr. Bayrod is conflicted. He should not have signed that letter. I think there's still a requirement that the town board correctly, procedurally, take a look at the application in light of the changes that were introduced. You wanted that done, and they sent the letter, but the letter is defective because of Mr. Bayrod's conflict. And I would ask you to please look further into that, because ethics matter, and the town of Riverhead needs to clean up its act. And I think the planning board can go a long way to help that happen by moving forward and making sure that the neg deck determination is properly considered. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Blas?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, I appreciate all your efforts this evening in doing the right thing here, but I have to say that if the appropriate designation of a positive declaration had been given early on, that facility, the substation, which is the focal point of everyone's concerns at this, even though there are others, would have been mitigated during, it would have been fully vetted in an EIS. And the irony is that years later, we are no further, and the applicant is no further along than they would have been had the town board agreed to do the right thing and stop skipping those details and all of those other obvious issues that are still not even addressed. The Pine Barrens Review Commission still needs to give them an approval. All of that information could have been done in a neat package when it was appropriate, before they made a commitment that this nameplate, you know, they sign a contract, they have a nameplate of energy that they have to provide. They have to provide it for 30 years. They did all of those things, and then they stick it to the town to say, now that you have to approve it. The appropriate thing would have been an EIS early on, and all of this as an alternative location would have been established, and many of these issues would have not been, you know, the subject of such controversy today. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there isn't anyone else that wishes to address the board, any other business that the planning board wants to discuss? No. Okay, next meeting is Thursday, May 6th at 7 p.m. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All in favor?
Second motion?
Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you. Oh, that was a little painful.